Caroline Njoroge. Now, cabinet secretaries will, beginning this Wednesday, start appearing before the National Assembly to answer questions in plenary on their specific dockets after the Speaker of the National Assembly announced the amendments in the standing orders. Parliament, which will resume sittings after a 2-week Easter break, will also be a beehive of activities, with the Speaker expected to table the names of the 14 members of the ad hoc committee on bipartisan parliamentary process. And as KTN's political affairs reporter Emmanuel Tor now details, the Kenya Kwanza side will hold its first parliamentary group meeting early Tuesday morning to come up with its 7 members of the 14-member committee.
Honorable members, I take this opportunity to welcome you back.
After taking a 2-week break for the Easter holiday from the 23rd of March, the National Assembly is expected to bounce back to life Tuesday afternoon, with cabinet secretaries expected to begin answering questions from the legislators on the floor of the House beginning Wednesday and every other Wednesday afternoon.
With respect to request to consider amending the standing orders to strengthen parliamentary oversight of the executive.
The legislators are expected to write down their questions and present them to the clerk of the National Assembly, who will then collate them and share both to the Speaker and to the CS. The majority leader will decide the urgency of the questions and prioritize them and the order in which the CSs will appear. The CSs will have at most 3 hours every Wednesday to answer to the questions. Wednesday's question and answer session has already been scheduled to begin from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. The CS will sit on the right side of the Speaker, where the CS for Treasury normally sits when presenting budget estimates. The CS, who is mandated to appear in person, will then have time to send the written answers a day before the sittings. Questions directed to a constitutional office or an independent office will be dealt with in the departmental committee, as is the practice. While announcing the new changes, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, said the amendment, which took effect on 23rd March this year, following the amendment of Standing Order number 43A, will ensure accountability of government.
Embrace science, and to know, Mr. Speaker, that science is moving on.
The new process, which will be akin to the last one witnessed during the 10th Parliament in the Grand Coalition Agreement, was proposed by President William Ruto in a memorandum to Parliament. The changes have already received a warm reception from parliamentarians.
It gives an opportunity for a member of Parliament, who is a representative of the people, to pose a direct question and receive a response directly in clear, open environment that members of public are following, unlike a scenario where maybe an issue is being followed over time through bureaucracy, and at the end of the day, the response may come way after the incident.
A showdown is also expected once the names of the 14-member bipartisan parliamentary process are tabled. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya had already given its members 2 months to report back on the talks. Battle lines have been drawn in the sand as the Kenya Kwanza top brass maintained that Raila Odinga must first acknowledge William Ruto as president before any engagements begin.
If he wants to have any dialogue, first of all, he must start by accepting that there is a legitimate, constitutionally put in place government led by none other but Dr. William Samoei Ruto. That is the minimum that he should start. And again, I'm saying the approach that the president suggested of parliamentary and bipartisan dialogue, that is the right way. That is what we've been doing all the time.
But before Parliament convenes in the afternoon, Kenya Kwanza Alliance will first hold its parliamentary group meeting at 7:30 a.m. at State House, Nairobi, to come up with a 7-member lineup to join Azimio's 7 members to the committee. The Amani National Congress Party has already had a meeting with its MPs to strategize on the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting Tuesday.
Kenya Kwanza wakishatoa timu yao, Azimio walitoa yao Thursday, na wanaanza kulialia wakisema watachukua wale watu hardcore wenye hawatasikiza mambo yao, na sisi tunasema ya kweli hatutasikiza mambo yao. Hata mimi Adagala nitakuwa hapo na nitapinga kupinga.
Emmanuel Tor, KTN News, Nairobi.
Moving on, the reality of maturing government debt seems to be dawning on the Kenya Kwanza government, with the effects of the debt realities now being felt by civil servants as well as traders, who say the diminished purchasing power of government staff is slowly getting to them. Jimmy Mbogo now reports on the debt status of the country and the expected maturity date.
It is true we are having challenges in paying salaries. We are having challenges in giving money to governors because the handshake government ruined this economy. They borrowed money left, right, and center.
It is a confession that has now become the topic of discussion in the country. A confession that seems to give a glimpse of why the country has been listed on the red by the World Bank at high risk of defaulting on its debt obligation. According to the medium-term debt management strategy, the maturity of domestic debt is expected to be the highest in 2023, majorly due to maturing short-term government securities. The strategy further shows that as of December 2022, Kenya debt to GDP ratio was at 60%, with domestic debt accounting for 33.2%, while external debt accounted for 26.8%. The medium-term strategy further shows that the country had an outstanding nominal debt of 8.9 trillion, comprising of domestic debt of 4.4 trillion and an external debt of 4.5 trillion shillings, which was going to cost the government at least 5.3% of the GDP to repay, where at least 3.9% would go to domestic debt servicing, while another 1.4% of the GDP would be channeled towards external debt.
We inherited a dilapidated economy with empty coffers. There was nothing. Whatever little was there is finished. William Ruto has started rebuilding this country from scratch. He found an empty country with nothing. Everything had been spent and stolen.
Despite claims of misappropriation of funds by the previous administration, the realities of debt obligation lie squarely on the Ruto-led team to find solution for the country debt management. And according to the National Treasury debt management strategy, the situation may get worse for the next 3 years before softening in 2026. The depreciating shilling may also worsen the situation for the government as external debt maturity is expected in the next few years. Jimmy Mbogo, KTN News.
Now, away from that, the family of Willis Kiraku Mugambi, a boda operator who was allegedly shot by the police in Chuka, are seeking justice. Kiraku, who was the Tharaka Nithi boda chair, was trying to calm down locals who were protesting the killing of another man when he was shot dead as police moved in to disperse the demonstrators. Our senior reporter, Rita Tinina, tells us why exactly the police service once again finds itself in the eye of the storm.
Karioko village in Kiangondu location, Chuka, Tharaka Nithi County. The family of 30-year-old Willis Kiraku Mugambi was shot dead on Saturday evening, trying to come to terms with his death. Kiragu, who was the Boda Riders County chairman, was trying to calm down demonstrators who were carrying a casket bearing the remains of Daniel Mutembei, demanding the arrest of locals they claim killed him last month. The protesters blocked the Meru-Nairobi highway.
Raia ikakubali, Kiraku na yeye akaenda akaongea na maaskari, wakakujia mwili na mwili ikaenda. Saa mwili venye ilienda ndio walianza vita. Wakaanza kurushia watu matiangas, kulipua mabuduki juu.
Kiraku is said to have been shot dead as police tried to disperse the demonstrators.
Kitu 5:50 hapo alinipigia. Akaniambia kabla giza iingie anafika nyumbani ndo alipie token. Sasa kidogo ndo niliambiwa ameshutiwa.
Kwanza nipee Mungu hii mambo. Hata huyu alifanya hiyo kazi. Nimpee Mungu.
Family members say the 30-year-old father of an 8 and 3-year-old was a committed family man.
On Sunday, that is Sunday, yesterday, nilikuwa niende kulipa mahali dawali. Tuende tulipe mahali ili afanye harusi. Sasa umeona vile imekuwa.
The family is now seeking justice for Kiragu.
Justice tu ndo nataka, sababu ili alikuwa anatetea haki ya wanyonge. Na hata hiyo risasi venye alipigwa haikuwa ati ni anjali, ati nini. Ilikuwa kitu planned.
Tunauliza kitu kimoja tu, justice. Ile ambaye alimuua, alimpiga risasi, sababu alipigwa kwa nyuma, hawakuwa wanapigana na yeye, tujue ni nani, na serikali ifanye kazi yake, or make sure hiyo mtu hata yeye amelipa kulingana na law.
Hii mambo hasa isunguzwe, tujue ni nini. Hata tukinjua hao watu walifanya hivyo tungefurahi sana, tuanjue wizi tu.
Tharaka Nithi Police County Commander Donathan Riga says investigations to try and establish what exactly happened are underway.
Now, 6 students of Kivaiwa High School in Kakamega County have been arrested in connection to the fire incident that burned down a dormitory at the institution. The 6 are said to have been mentioned by fellow students and local leaders and now want their parents to meet the costs of putting up a new facility to deter a similar occurrence in future, given this is the 3rd time the school is witnessing such. At St. Peter's Mumias High School in the same county, more than 200 students lost their items after their dorm was reduced to ashes. Alan Ochanda with the details.
What was students' items have been reduced to ashes here at Kivaiwa High School in Kakamega County after one of the dormitories was burnt down last night. Investigations have, however, placed a group of 6 students at the center of the arson incident and have since been arrested, with local leaders pushing to have their parents meet the costs of putting up a new facility so as to deter similar incidents in future.
But if there's anybody around you who is here and is causing you that problem, don't keep him. Don't keep him. Just tell us who he is, because we want to be in peace and we want to leave this place successful.
6 students have been arrested. They are in the cells because police investigation indicates that they were the main culprit. We are going to force the parents of those students to contribute towards the construction of that dormitory. Yeah. We are not going just to leave it every time you leave it on leaders. So parents will meet part of the cost of construction of that building.
Arson cases have been rampant in schools and curiously happen when learners are just about to sit for their examinations. This particular one is the 3rd one at Kivaiwa High School, with parents wondering if the security of their children is guaranteed, even as school management assures learning won't be affected.
Na tukiangalia kwa hizi dormitory, tunaona kama kuna CCTVs. Na tuko na uhakika kwa kwamba wakati tuliingia kwa hii shule tuliambiwa security iko. Na mimi kwa binafsi yangu najua ya kwamba security kama iko, watoto kama wameenda preps kwa class, security inaangalia ni nini yenye inafanyika nyuma kwa dormitories. Sasa tunataka watuambie security walikuweko, walifanya hivyo ama hapana.
So we are not going to close the school, but we are going to provide some of your amenities from today and tomorrow, so that learning continues as usual.
Elsewhere in the same county of Kakamega, more than 200 students of St. Peter's High School Mumias also lost their valuables, which include mattresses and boxes, after their dormitory was razed down by an inferno last night. The education stakeholders from the county calling on students to volunteer crucial information about the suspects, while beseeching those not interested in being in their current schools to leave voluntarily instead of causing havoc.
We found out that the dormitory was on fire and all the students' property were destroyed. And therefore I want to take this opportunity to thank the county government, because yesterday they brought fire brigade that was able to put off the fire. This dormitory is twin dormitory, so we were able to save one section of the dormitory.
Professional counselors will come to interact with you, so it's at 4, so that you cope up with the situation. And I want to implore upon you to continue being good students. Please be focused on your studies. And I also want to be very candid on this. If there's anyone amongst you here who feels that you don't like this school, tell your parent to get you out. Yes. Or you leave. Yes. Don't ban so that the rest live with you.
Just leave. You came here alone and leave alone.
Alan Ochanda, KTN News.
To security matters, police are this evening saying they're on the hunt for 6 men who stormed the Iten County Referral Hospital armed with AK-47 rifles and took a patient who was being treated for a gunshot wound. Meanwhile, leaders from the North Rift region now want the government to put more resources in the fight against insecurity along the Kerio Valley, while citing sabotage from the police as the reason behind the unending banditry attacks. The leaders have urged the government to consider deploying more national police reservists, investigate cases of sabotage by police, and bring a lasting solution to the insecurity menace that has been troubling the North for years. Miriam Angel with that report.
The call to intensify security in the Rift Valley region is still ongoing, with leaders now asking the government to classify banditry as a form of terrorism.
Wasaidie rais kupitisha ile kipengele ya katiba ile inaruhusu rais kuamrisha KDF wafanye operation kule Kerio Valley. Tukaomba pia ikiwezekana nyinyi kama bunge muende mpitishe mswada and you classify mambo ya banditry kama terrorism.
Speaking at a function in Elgeyo Marakwet, the political leaders said what was going on in the Rift Valley region was a shame to their communities. The political leaders are now calling on the church to intervene through conflict resolution along the Kerio Valley.
We must own up and agree. This is the scam of our generation. Brothers fighting against brothers for this long. Many lives being lost is not anything to sleep and say we are at home.
Solution ya mambo ya pale Kerio Valley iko hapo kwa kanisa. I want to believe that. Kwa sababu hii mambo ya insecurity ya Kerio Valley, kama vile MCA amesema hapa, it is an embarrassment of monumental proportions. Ya kwamba bado tunapigana, tunaua watoto, tunaumiza watu ambao hawana makosa. It is a shame to this country.
Elgeyo Marakwet AIC Bishop David Kipsoi has called on the government to work hand in hand with the affected counties in order to improve infrastructure in the region, stating this would help change the mindset of the locals.
Sisi tulikutana juzi kama maaskofu, tunasema ya kwamba kama serikali wanageuza kutuunga mkono, sisi tufanye zoning katika PRH. Hii milima Catholic, milima hiyo full gospel, milima hiyo wapi? Alafu nyinyi serikali jenga shule, leta walimu. Sisi tunajenga kanisa na kuweka pasta.
Mimi pia nimepewa hiyo jukumu kwa sababu Mwenyezi Mungu atanipea neema ya kutosha kusuluhisha hizo shida za barabara ambazo Wakenya wanapitia.
Despite the Kenya Defence Forces being deployed in the region, security is yet to be restored. The leaders are now asking the government to add the National Police Reservists to the task force, with Elgeyo Marakwet woman representative Caroline Galichei saying there is sabotage within the task force.
Kuna sabotage kidogo inaweza kuwa inaendelea kwa sababu mambo haifanyiki vile inavyotakikana. I don't foresee anywhere whereby the government is in it. There is machinery, the personnel are there, lakini haiishi. So meaning kuna watu tu walienda kambi wakalala. If there is sabotage or if there is saboteur within those camps, they should be flushed out.
The political leaders also stated that President William Ruto's administration was working round the clock to restore normalcy in the region.
Nataka tuambiane ukweli. Sehemu ya Tiati na sehemu zingine, they have been neglected by successive regimes in this country. Na mimi naamini ya kwamba serikali ya Dr. William Samoei Ruto itamaliza hii mambo ya security along Kerio Valley.
Tutumie vile njia mbadala ya kuleta suluhisho katika Kerio Valley. Wakati serikali inajiandaa kutumbia vyombo vya usalama, vile kanisa imejitolea kupigana dhidi ya vita na uwizi ya mifugo.
Kwa hivyo msikae kama mko na shaka kama wananchi. Kaeni na tumaini. Mko na kiongozi ambaye anapambana kuhakikisha mambo imeenda vizuri.
Miriam Angel, KTN News.
Women leaders from Taita Taveta now say they're ready to battle it out with their male counterparts for elective seats